Welcome to the show. It's time to dive in. Talking sports with Evan. Let the fun begin. From the Brewers to the Packers, we cover it all. Wisconsin pride, we stand tall. The baggers on the field making history. With every touchdown, it's a victory. From Camp Randall to the court, we chill out. Wisconsin sports, we make our state proud. Feel the energy, the passion in the air. Join the conversation, we got stories to share. From the Bucks' big wins to the Brewers' great plays, we'll keep you entertained through all the games. Hey, sports with Evan, it's where we belong.
Good evening and welcome to Thursday, July 9th episode of Talking Sports with Evan. And appreciate you all tuning in live or watching or listening later on one of the options that we do provide. You can watch live on X at Evan with Sports and on YouTube, Talking Sports with Evan each and every week. Or you can also listen, you can also listen later on either of those platforms. And you can also listen to the show later on Spotify. Show will go live at 6 a.m.-ish tomorrow. 8 a.m., sorry. Tomorrow I said the 6 because the Brewers just took a 6-0 lead over the Cardinals. But with that said, have a bunch of things I would like to cover and address since last week. A lot of it going to be Milwaukee Brewer based. I'm going to talk a little Milwaukee Bucks. For the most part, close the door on Giannis and his leaving the Bucks. The general manager Jon Horst made a few comments last week, or not last week, the other day, and I kind of want to touch base a little bit on what Jon Horst had to say in regards to the Bucks and moving on from Giannis. I do want to talk a little bit about that. You are able to not call, but you are able to text the show at the Talking Sports with Evan talk and text line. That number is at the bottom of the screen for the video, 414-454-9771. The main topic today, the main thing I want to get your opinion on watching this live, either on YouTube or Facebook, is with the MLB trade deadline fast approaching, what position group or who should the Milwaukee Brewers trade for? And please be realistic with it. Don't say Shohei Ohtani or, Bryce Harper or somebody like that. Be realistic with it. You can text the show right now and let me know who you would like to see the Milwaukee Brewers go after or what position you'd like to see them go after. Because I'm going to talk about that and some injury issues the Brewers have had recently and some moves that they have now made recently on what I think the Brewers need to focus on at the deadline. So I'm going to go cover that in tonight's show. I'm going to talk some new look Milwaukee Bucks as well and, see where the night kind of takes us from there, I guess. But starting with the Milwaukee Brewers. If you have been to the Talking Sports with Evan Facebook page or YouTube, you saw I put a short down in TikTok. Evan Witalis on TikTok. You saw I put a video down with my opinion on Brandon Woodruff moving forward. That I don't think he should be a starting pitcher anymore, and that if he, when he comes back this season, he should be pitching out of the bullpen. He's shown that he cannot pitch as a starter anymore. Same issue happened earlier this year, pitched a few starts and the shoulder gave out, comes off the IL finally 6 weeks later, makes a couple starts, and then the shoulder gives out. And now, unfortunately, based off the latest news, I don't think we're going to see Woodruff in a Brewer uniform ever again. The original shoulder injury required a surgical repair of his anterior capsule in his shoulder. And it was basically he missed all of the 2024 season and a good start to the 2025 season while he was trying to come back from it. The MRI that he got shows an injury, a new injury to that capsule, the anterior capsule in the shoulder. He's going to go get a second opinion on the issue, but it showed a further injury to that capsule. And with that information, as much as I said he needs to come out of the bullpen, I don't think he pitches again. It took him a full year to come back the last time where he needed surgery. But I just don't see a path back for him in the bullpen or the starting rotation. I don't think we see him again this year. I think his season's over. And I guess it sucks that his season is likely over, and I can't say this I don't have any information telling me this. This is just based on he's getting a second opinion on the shoulder. This is just based off what I've seen and read and heard with the new injury. And I wish that wasn't the news. I think he is exactly what you want as a Milwaukee Brewer. He has been a great Brewer his entire career. And it sucks that this is likely how it's going to end. He's going to miss the playoffs again. He didn't get a chance to pitch in the playoffs in 2024. He did not get a chance to pitch in the playoffs in 2023. Did not get a chance to pitch in the playoffs last year. And now, once again, he's not going to likely be back in the playoffs. And it sucks because he is a guy who you like watching go out and pitch. But his body is just breaking down, and the Brewers have to make tough decisions. They gave him the qualifying offer, which I know people say that they don't think the Brewers thought he was going to sign it. I think they gave him the qualifying offer knowing fair well that the Brewers are going to sign him. He was going to sign it with the Brewers. The Brewers gave him a contract basically to sit in rehab, and then they offered him the qualifying offer, hoping that he would be a little more dependable this season coming out of the rotation and be that veteran presence that you need that you need down the stretch. And now they're not going to have that again with his capsule injury once again. And like I said, I don't know if he's season ender or not. I'm just going based off the last time he had the injury. I don't know if it's going to recover surgery this time, but it just sucks. And I think he would have been a great reliever out of the bullpen to go along with Trevor McGill, Uribe, Ashby. You put him there too in the playoffs. Chad Patrick, you're going to have a bullpen that's going to be lock solid come postseason play. And yes, we're talking postseason play right now. The Brewers at 58 wins, continuing to play really good baseball, up 6-0 over the Cardinals right now. I'm pretty comfortable saying that they're going to be a playoff team this year. Now, with that said, if they want to be a playoff team or a World Series team, they got some work to do. They got some work to do, and I think they have to make a move. I think almost everybody in baseball, all the talking heads, a lot smarter than me, which isn't saying much, but people with bigger platforms than me, people smarter than me, people with bigger audiences than me, they're starting to come to the conclusion that the Brewers need to make a move. But what exactly is that move? What exactly do the Brewers need to do? And I've seen people on social media balk at the idea of them adding a pitcher. They got the best rotation in baseball. They don't need to add a starting pitcher. They need bats. They need offense. They need relief pitching. I think the Woody injury adds that pitching is a big concern at the deadline now. I think they have to add a starter. Mizorowski, he pitched in the playoffs last year, but he's going to be going over his inning limits very soon. More innings than he's ever thrown before. Does he make it through the stretch run of the season? I think it's probably a good thing that he won't be pitching in the All-Star game with the fact he's pitching on Sunday. But will his body hold up for another August, September, October, another 3 months. Where his body hold up? Kyle Harrelson, he left the game with left elbow soreness yesterday. That's something to watch. Can that elbow hold up? Can that elbow? Is he going to need to have a procedure done? I think, again, for him, the All-Star break comes at the perfect time because they can monitor that a little bit. But he's also going over innings pitched limits, too, that he's ever thrown before. Sprout, he's a rookie. He's never been in the postseason before. Logan Henderson, who's back today, it's looking pretty good so far. He didn't pitch last year in the postseason, and he is he seems to be often injured now, unfortunately, for the Brewers. I just look at the rotation and I question how efficient they're going to be in the postseason without a veteran presence like Woody. They need a veteran in that. I'm not saying it has to be Tarek Skubal. That would be a dream, but you'd have to give up a lot just to get Skubal. I think you'd have to give up guys you do not want to get rid of if you wanted to trade for Skubal. Andrew Fisher, Jesus Made, those are guys that the the Tigers are likely going to ask for. ESPN put out an article today talking about the weaknesses, the biggest weakness of some playoff teams, the best trade option, and then the dream trade. And they put the Brewers playoff caliber starting pitching. So again, ESPN is not thinking they have playoff caliber starting pitching. I think they do. I just think they need a veteran presence there. Now they say the best match would be Clay Holmes, right-handed pitcher from the New York Mets. They think that'd be the best match for the Brewers to go get. And Holmes is as I mentioned, a right-handed pitcher. He is 33 years old, and he's 4-4 with a 2.39 ERA this season, just 45 strikeouts. He's not a big strikeout pitcher anymore, but he is a veteran presence that that has experienced the postseason before. His dream move for the Milwaukee Brewers is Minnesota Twins right-handed pitcher Joe Ryan. That's his dream move for the Brewers. And he says in his article, quote, "The Brewers are the Dodgers without dollars. Their player development system hums like it was a German engineered. Their big league club is deep, well-rounded, and knows how to win. The Brewers are good enough if they wanted, they could deal away big leaguers and not much worse for the wear." If he talks about Holmes returning from a broken right leg will be more than they did last deadline. They goes Ryan, though, will be the sort of rotation stability they could use with Ruddy and Henderson hurt, which Henderson's back. But the thing is, the Brewers are a playoff team that needs to set their heights higher. And Holmes or Ryan would be great additions for the Milwaukee Brewers. I think they need starting pitching. And yes, I know what their team ERA is. I know what their team strikeouts are. But they have a rotation full of guys that really haven't done it before in the postseason. Mizorowski was a good he did well last year. And Chad Patrick, he did well last year too, and he's out of the bullpen. But Quinn Priestler's not coming back. Woody's likely not coming back. So can you depend on a very young pitching rotation to get you over the hump in the postseason? The other option the Brewers need is they could use another bat. They really could. And they just caught up Luis Lora from AAA outfielder, another right fielder. He has hit with some power at the AAA level. We'll see how that transpires. But the Brewers could use a third baseman, in my opinion. Yes, Joey Ortiz is starting to hit better than he was. He's starting to hit the baseball better. But David Hamilton's on the 10-day IL. And he's a to me a utility guy, not an everyday out third baseman for the Brewers. Joey Ortiz again playing better, but I think they could upgrade there. So they got to find a third baseman, I feel. And that's really the only position, especially if Cooper Pratt continues to get that bat churning. His average climbing a little bit. He is 400 over the last 7 games. After being 205 over his last 15, 250 over his last 30. Over his last week or so, he went 2 of 3 against St. Louis in one of the games of the doubleheader, 1 for 1 in the other, 2 for 4 on 2 for 4 on 7-7, 2 for 3 on 7-8, and 1 for 1 so far tonight. His bats might starting to be coming around a little bit. But I think that would be fine there, but they need a third baseman. And I know the Brewers don't like getting guys that are limited on positions they can play, but my pipe dream, and I know he's older and he's not the same as he used to be, Arenado. Can you get Nolan Arenado? He is a dangerous player at third base, and he can DH a little bit with Christian Yelich too. When Christian Yelich needs a break, when he isn't in the lineup, you can put Arenado at the DH position instead. He's a guy that's a clutch bat. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of options available right now at the trade deadline. If the trade deadline were to be today, there wouldn't be a lot of trades because there's a lot of teams that still feel they're in the hunt. And the Brewers are going to have to pay very premium dollars to try to pull guys to their roster. But I think outfield is pretty good. You got Jackson Chiriot, very good, very, very good player. He missed the first month of the year, but since he's been back, aside from slumping a little bit right now, he's a very good outfielder for the Brewers, and he's a guy who has pretty good power. Laura, I mentioned, Jake Bauers has played some outfield for them. Garrett Mitchell is really starting to look like a big league caliber player now that he's getting comfortable. And then you got Sal Frelick and Luis Laura in the right field spot, and Jake Bauers can play a little bit there as well. But when you look at the position players, a bat at third base would do wonders, and that's really the only place I think they could find a bat. Anyways, I guess you could maybe find a power bat at the right field position, but again, you have a lot of bodies there, and I definitely think they could use some help out of the bullpen. McGill, Uribe, Ashby, Patrick, pretty good. Pretty good bullpen overall. But then you have Jared Koenig, who just came off the IL, Grant Anderson, who's oil and water sometimes, Craig Yoho, who Murphy doesn't seem to be a big fan of, and you have Dave Rom, and then you have Joe Kuno, who's currently on the IL. Come postseason play, guys like Coleman Crow, Logan Henderson, Shane Drohan, they can all, I guess, pitch out of the pen. But I think the Brewers could use another bullpen arm, too. Another higher leverage bullpen arm. Add to the A bullpen. So, you have your McGill, your Uribe, your Ashby, your Patrick. Add to the A bullpen. And maybe it's Jared Koenig being healthy, but I think you need to add to your A bullpen. So your B bullpen gets stronger because guys like a Jared Koenig might switch to your B bullpen. And when I say A bullpen, B bullpen, I think it's safe to know what I mean. But for those that don't, I'm talking about, the guys I mentioned in McGill, Uribe, Ashby, Patrick. Those are your high leverage guys that when you're in a ball game, you're going to throw those guys a lot. The B bullpen, your Grant Anderson, your Craig Yoho, DL Hall is kind of fringe between both. He should be coming back shortly. Your Kuno, who's currently on the IL, your Dave Rom. Those are guys you consider your B bullpen. When you want to give your A bullpen a break or it's a blowout one way or the other, those are the guys you want to give a break to. and use your B bullpen instead. But that's really it for the Brewers. Again, I'm happy with what the Brewers are doing. They're a fun team to watch. They're getting wins. There's 6.5, I want to say, up on the Chicago Cubs right now. The Cubs lost. The Cubs did lose today, and I believe now they're 6.5 up on the Cubs. And the big thing is just keep stacking wins, keep stacking series wins, and you can continue to keep that lead. Now the Cardinals 9.5, Brewers win, they'll be 10.5 back, and then you got the Pirates again. It seems like every year before the All-Star break, they always have the Pirates, but you got the Pirates again coming up at 47 and 47 currently to close out the unofficial first half of the year. We're well past the official first half, halfway point of the year, but now we're at the unofficial end of the season, first half of the season, with the All-Star game coming up early next week. And that's the other thing I want to talk about is All-Star snubs. Bryce Terang should be in the All-Star game. He really should. JJ Wethenholt, he should be in the All-Star game. There are a lot of snubs. A lot of snubs in the All-Star game this season. Bryce Terang leads the way. Luke Weaver of the Mets, he's having a really quality year out of the bullpen for them. He got snubbed. Braxton Ashcraft, 9-3 with a 3.24 ERA. He didn't make the initial group. Michael Harris, the second, which I think Ashcraft got picked as a reserve, but I could be wrong. American League, Wilson Contreras is ending up going. He's going to participate in the home run derby. Sonny Gray, Colson Montgomery, Davis Martin, Nick Martinez. Those are all guys that should have been there too. Now, they already named some reserves for pitchers for Sunday's games. They can't pitch in the All-Star game because they're pitching on Sunday. But Bryce Terang should go. He is one of the best defensive second basemen in baseball, and he has he has the nice bat the past couple years too that really show that he's added some pop to his bat. But I don't know how you fix the All-Star game voting. I know that they tried fixing it recently, but we always end up in the same problem, and that is guys who deserve to be in the All-Star game get left out because of the way they vote for the All-Star game. So, quickly on Jon Horst. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Bucs lineup, looking at the time. Don't know if I have enough time, but Jon Horst spoke after the Giannis trade became official, and he called about some of the things he said, quote, "This is hard. Call it what it is. Giannis is one of the greatest players in NBA history, top 75 all time, greatest player in franchise history. He's an NBA champion in Milwaukee. All the things we've talked about and what you know, he is not with us anymore." I agree that Giannis is probably the best Buck in franchise history. And before you jump with Kareem on me or Lou Alcindor, Giannis played with the Bucks for 13 years. He has every single Bucks record aside from obviously 3-point shooting. He has like almost every single Bucks record. He lasted 13 years. He's won multiple MVPs, multiple Defensive Players of the Year, an NBA championship, an NBA Finals MVP, where he scored 50 points in the deciding game, going 17-19 from the free throw line. I think every way you look at it, and no disrespect to Kareem didn't have the length in Milwaukee that Giannis had. Giannis, again, 13 years in Milwaukee, and he could have left sooner. He could have got out of Milwaukee sooner than spending 13 years there. But again, he spent 13 years in Milwaukee, and I think it's fair to say that he is the the best player in franchise history. And he's definitely the best player I've ever watched with the Bucks. I wasn't alive when Kareem played with the Milwaukee Bucks. That was before me. But I agree with Horst that Giannis is probably the greatest Milwaukee Bucks player of all time. And it is sad to see him go. It is sad to see him that he's going to be wearing a new uniform next year. And it's going to be number 7, I believe. Other things he said, the decision to trade Giannis was not one he made lightly, and Milwaukee's package ultimately won him over. Goes, quotes, we got a lot of work to do, and we are championed balance. We are championed balance and getting back foundation players that we believed in, draft capital that we thought we could utilize and capitalize on, either by drafting at some point or by using in future transactions, and flexibility to make decisions. The Miami opportunity presented us with the best path in totality, and that's why we did the deal. So there you go. That's why they did the deal for with the Heat. They like what they got back with the Heat, and you can argue that these are a lot of just guys all you want, but they like the package that the Heat provided, and that's what they went with. And he goes, in most cases, for most of the last decade, there wasn't a particular path of, hey, if we trade Giannis, it's this, and if we keep Giannis, it's this. It was just, we're going to maximize this with Giannis. And so you end up trying to find the best opportunity and make the most of it, and hopefully it works. I don't like that comment that you hope to make the best out of the opportunity and hopefully it works. I don't really like that comment. And here's why I don't like the comment. Hopefully it works. To me, that states they didn't really have a plan. They didn't really have a plan in place on how they were going to best utilize the time they had with Giannis in a Bucks uniform, how they were going to put the roster around him. It makes the release and stretching out Dame Lillard, signing Miles Turner, those moves, it just makes it seem like I said, they didn't have a plan. They didn't really have a plan in place on what they were going to do. They just said that, hey, we got to throw a bunch of crap against the wall and hope it works. But unfortunately, they did too much throwing of crap on the wall, and it didn't work. And you want to know an easy way to make it work. And I get you were drafting late first round, late second round when you had draft picks. But the easiest way to make it work with Giannis, the easiest way, draft better players. Every player that Jon Horst has drafted, during his Bucks tenure, except for Dante DiVincenzo, who's not a Buck anymore, and I get he wasn't playing that well when they traded him and they needed a center, so that is what it is. But every player the Bucks drafted ended up busting out. Jordan Nwora, perfect example. A.J. Johnson. They were hoping to hit on another Giannis rather than get a guy that could help the team that you have now. Chris Middleton, I know we didn't draft Middleton, but he was a second-round pick. Look for your Chris Middletons in the drafts. Don't get the high floor, high ceiling, low floor, high risk, low reward guy that you always drafted. Thon Maker was that. They thought they were getting another potential Giannis and Thon Maker, and they didn't develop him. So you have a combination of lack of development and bad draft picks that hurt you. So you had to make these desperation moves that you didn't seem to have a plan for. I don't have the time right now, and maybe I could for another show. I could go through and look at every draft that the Bucks had after they drafted Giannis, who they drafted and who they could have had. I could pull one of those, but I guarantee you there's a lot of guys that went shortly after the Bucks pick that would have been better options. And that's where it frustrates me with Jon Horst. If you draft better, then you're not having to make these desperation moves of trading for Dame Lillard, trading Drew Holiday for Dame Lillard, because you're desperate of trying to get one last squeeze out of the toothpaste tube. You don't have to wave and stretch Dame Lillard and sign Miles Turner at one last ditch effort of trying to get that toothpaste out of the tube before you can't do it anymore. But Jon Horst needs to look at himself in the mirror and blame himself for why Giannis ended up being traded. Other things he said, this time around, we had something sincerely to compare those options to. And clearly we made the decision on what we thought was best for us. But again, there's a human side of this and a respect factor of Giannis, and what's best for Giannis was to execute the Miami trade. It was different than years past in that there were truly paralleling paths to really consider against just the all-in with Giannis and what does it look like. I like that he was mostly appeared to be all in with Giannis, but again, he didn't draft worth a crap. And he started getting desperate towards the tail end of the Giannis era. So, best of luck to Giannis. And like I said, I may talk some Giannis next week. I reached out to friend of show, Tristan Thomas, to inquire about him coming on. And there's a lot to talk about with the Bucks with him. And I'm sure Giannis will come up. But in regards to me flying solo, this is until Giannis comes back to Milwaukee to play the Bucks. This is me closing the door on my conversations involving Giannis. I'm closing that chapter. He's no longer a Buck. It's sad. I wish he would have been a Buck for his entire career, but unfortunately it just wasn't in the cards and it's not happening. So I will be back next week, one way or the other, solo or with a guest, talking Bucks, talking Brewers at the All-Star break, talking Packers, talking whatever the hell, if it's Tristan, we feel like. So with that said, thank you so much for watching live. Thank you so much for listening. I see my numbers climbing. I appreciate each and every one of you. Subscribe, like, comment, rate on Spotify, on Facebook, on YouTube, on X. Make sure to do all the above for me on all those platforms. I want to grow my YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube, Talking Sports with Evan. Please follow on X at Evan with Sports. Follow on Facebook, Talking Sports with Evan. Would love to see it. Have a great rest of your week. Have a safe and wonderful weekend. And I will be back next week.
Wisconsin's hot, it beats strong.